Get ready to completely shift your perspective. This will be a captivating journey through uncharted history as we unveil the incredible stories behind each previously unseen snapshot from the most bizarre photos from the Wild West. This is a photo of William Brazen Bill Brazelton, an outlaw who died in 1878. He is shown wearing a mask, which he likely used during his crimes. A woman is wearing a mask and a bonnet. We don't know much about her, but the mask and bonnet show what she might have worn in her time. This is a memento mori photo of the Dalton Gang from 1892. After they were killed, this picture was taken to remind people of their lives and crimes. In 1894, a big sandstorm hit Midland, Texas. The wind blew so much sand and dust that it covered everything, making it hard to see or breathe. This is a post-mortem photo from the late 1800s. People often took pictures of loved ones after they passed away to remember them, as photos were rare then. Men build a new railroad, linking the wild frontier to the rest of the world. Arizona, 1898. A photo of a family with their covered wagon during the Great Western Migration. Loup Valley, Nebraska, 1886. A group with horses travels over hot, slippery rocks on Navajo Mountain, heading to Rainbow Bridge. Utah, 1909. Grovant Camp, located on the Fort Belknap Reservation in Montana, was the setting for a scene in 1906 where a dog was being roasted over a cooking pot. This moment captures a glimpse of life and traditional practices at the time, offering a look into the daily activities and cultural elements of the community. In September 1885, 11-year-old Jimmy McKinn was taken by Geronimo. When the Apache were caught for a short time in March 1886, Jimmy didn't want to go back to his family. He wanted to stay with the Apache. A photo was taken of him with the Apache before Geronimo surrendered to General Crook. In 1911, wagons and carriages zigzagged down the W. Pikes Peak Carriage Road in Colorado. The winding road was a popular way to travel up and down the mountain. This exciting journey gave travelers amazing views, but the steep turns made it an adventure. It was a famous route for exploring the beauty of Pikes Peak. He believed American character grew through constant change and westward expansion. Since 1893, Turner's ideas have inspired historians to study different American frontiers. But the popular focus is on settling Native American lands west of the Mississippi, including the Midwest, Texas, Great Plains, Rockies, Southwest, and West Coast. In 1895, a family in New Mexico posed outside their home. A Native American servant is holding their child in the photo. This shows how life was at the time, with Native Americans often working for settlers. The home is simple, reflecting the hard life people faced in this part of the country during that period. In 1869, Corinne, Utah was a typical American frontier town. The streets were dusty, lined with wooden buildings like shops, saloons, and houses. Wagons and horses moved through the town, bringing supplies and travelers. Corinne was a busy place during the railroad expansion, filled with people seeking opportunities. Life was simple but tough, as settlers worked hard to build their futures. The town shows what life was like in early Western settlements. In 1907, in Okanogan, Washington, a cow was used to carry 7 children, said to be going to school, according to the original caption. The image shows a creative and unusual way of transportation back then. Life in rural areas was different, and people often used whatever they had, like a cow, to get around. In 1895, a teacher and her students stood outside a sod schoolhouse in Woods County, Oklahoma. The schoolhouse was made from dirt and grass, common in areas with few trees. Life was simple, and students learned in small, tough buildings like this. This photo shows what schools were like for children on the frontier during that time. If you thought the last story was wild, wait until you hear this one. It's almost unbelievable. Cheers, cowboy! These may look like ordinary Wild West saloons, but the story we're about to share has been hidden for good reason. Imagine walking into a saloon after a long day of hunting and riding, hoping for a cold drink, only to be secretly served a toxic cocktail. That's right, some Wild West saloons sold deadly drinks made with strychnine and turpentine to thirsty cowboys. Cowboys, prospectors, and miners weren't too fussy about what they drank. In one Sierra Nevada saloon, they served a notorious drink called Tarantella Juice. This wasn't your average booze. It was spiked with strychnine for an extra kick and made with wood grain alcohol distilled from turpentine. What happened to the brave or unlucky men who drank Tarantella Juice? The strychnine gave them a sudden burst of energy, similar to what meth might do. But as the poison spread through their bodies, it caused a creepy crawling sensation, like tarantulas running all over their skin. Soon after, they'd suffer violent muscle spasms and even lockjaw. Would you dare to drink Tarantella Juice? The next photo shows someone who might just take that risk, a man so famous back then, everyone was talking about him. In 1882, students at the Forest Grove School in Oregon took a blacksmithing class. They learned to shape metal into tools and other items. Blacksmithing was an important skill during that time, helping people in farming and daily life. This class shows how schools taught useful trades to prepare students for work and life on the frontier. Between 1867 and 1888, mine workers in Virginia City, Nevada, were often seen coming out of the mine shafts after long hours underground. These workers dug for valuable minerals like silver and gold, helping make the town famous during the mining boom. Their hard work and tough conditions showed the challenges of life in mining communities during that time. In 1889, Chinese settlers set up a fishing camp at Point San Pedro, California. They worked hard catching and drying fish to sell. These camps were simple, showing how settlers used local resources to survive. The Chinese played an important role in the American frontier, contributing their skills and hard work to the growing communities. In 1892, Shoshone tribe members danced on a Native American reservation at Fort Washakie, Wyoming. The dance was part of their traditions and culture, showing their connection to their history and community. Despite challenges, they kept their customs alive. This moment reflects the Shoshone people's strength and pride in their heritage during a changing time. Outlaw John Santag was shot on September 14, 1904, and later died. This photo was taken before he passed away. At the time, he was badly wounded, but still alive. Santag was known for his crimes, and his death marked the end of his outlaw life. This image captures a dramatic moment in his final hours. Who says only men were tough cowboys in the Wild West? This story proves women could be just as impressive. A woman once got $65 and a messenger sent to her hotel room just for her autograph. Who was she? Let's find out. Annie Oakley, born Phoebe Ann Mosey, August 13, 1860, November 3, 1926, was a famous sharpshooter and a star in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Even Chief Sitting Bull, the Lakota leader who defeated General Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn, was amazed by her skills. In 1884, Sitting Bull saw Annie perform in Minnesota. After her incredible show, he sent $65 to her hotel, asking for her signed photograph. But Annie didn't accept the money. Instead, she asked to meet him in person. Annie later shared, "The old man was so pleased with me, he insisted on adopting me, and I was given the name Watanya Cecilia, or Little Sure Shot." Later on, Annie and Sitting Bull became close friends while working together in Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show. Annie described him as a dear, faithful old friend, and said she had great respect and affection for him. This rare photo of Bloody Bill Anderson, a violent pro-Confederate leader during the Civil War, was found on his body after he was killed by Union soldiers in 1864. Known for leading bloody raids, Anderson was one of the most feared figures of the war. The photo was later turned into a small card called a carte de visite, making it a unique piece of history. It serves as a reminder of Anderson's role in one of the war's darkest chapters. In 1876, during the peak of cattle driving, two famous lawmen of the Old West, Bat Masterson and Wyatt Earp, posed together in Dodge City, Kansas. This photo captures them during a time when both were well-known figures in the frontier. Cowboys on camels? Yep, you heard that right. Camels in the Wild West. In 1855, the U.S. Army tried a bold experiment, bringing camels to Texas. They thought the wide, dry lands of the West would be perfect for camels. So they brought 75 camels all the way from the Middle East. But why camels, and what happened to them?
The camels were used at Camp Verde, mainly for hauling supplies to San Antonio. But their work didn't last long. When the Civil War broke out, the project fell apart, and a government official sold off the camels. Some were sent to Nevada and California, while others were set free in the wild. At first, people rarely saw the camels, but by the 1880s, Arizona was haunted by a strange and scary creature called the Red Ghost. It trampled a woman to death and, according to legend, even killed a grizzly bear. Miners who spotted the Red Ghost and shot at it were shocked when a human skull fell from its back. Eventually, the Red Ghost was killed. It turned out to be a wild camel. Even after that, people continued to see camels roaming the West for years, making this one of the strangest stories in American history. The United States grew from coast to coast through treaties, wars, political deals, building farms and towns, and welcoming immigrants. In 1893, Turner's frontier thesis argued that the frontier shaped Europeans into Americans, valuing equality, democracy, optimism, self-reliance, and sometimes violence. In 1876, Deadwood, Dakota was a busy gold rush town. People came hoping to find gold and get rich quickly. The town was full of miners, shops, and saloons. Life was wild and noisy, with people working hard and looking for fortune. Deadwood became famous during this time for its lively atmosphere and gold discoveries. This woman had an incredible gift. She was immune to smallpox. Calamity Jane was one of the few people in the Old West who could survive smallpox, and she used this to help others in need. As a child, she got smallpox but managed to recover. Years later, when smallpox broke out in Deadwood, she didn't hesitate to help. Even though she wasn't a nurse, Jane cared for 8 sick miners. One eyewitness said she was a perfect angel sent from heaven when any of the boys was sick. Deadwood was a tough place to be sick. People with smallpox were quarantined in tents with no running water. But Calamity Jane didn't leave them to suffer. She treated the men with herbs and Epsom salt and made sure they had food and water, sometimes even using a gun to get supplies. Thanks to her care, 5 of the 8 miners survived. The town's doctors said that without Calamity Jane, all 8 men would have died. Her courage and kindness made her a true hero. Quana Parker, the son of white captive Cynthia Ann Parker, was a strong Comanche leader. He led his warriors in a fight against buffalo hunters who entered Comanche lands. After the Battle of Adobe Walls, Quana continued to guide his people during difficult times. When he passed away in 1911, he left behind a proud and resilient Comanche nation, remembered for their strength and traditions. In 1909, the Klondike Dance Hall and Saloon in Seattle, Washington, was a lively spot. People came to drink, dance, and have fun. It was a popular place during the time of the gold rush, attracting miners and travelers. The saloon was noisy and exciting, showing the energetic nightlife of the city in that era. Did you know Seth Bullock and Al Swearen from the TV show Deadwood were real people in Wild West history? Seth Bullock moved around before settling in Deadwood, where he opened a hardware store and even started with a chamber pot auction. For over 20 years, he worked to keep law and order in the growing town. Al Swearen, who ran the Gem Variety Theater, was also real and had a twin. His theater was famous for wild events like spectator fights and made huge profits, sometimes up to $10,000 a night, a fortune back then. Unlike the show, Bullock and Swearen mostly stayed out of each other's way.
Swearengen's Badlands operated on one side of Main Street, while Bullock handled his business on the other, each shaping Deadwood in their own way. Wild Bill Hickok is considered one of the greatest gunfighters of the Old West. In this photo from 1865 to 66, he wears his own clothes, not a stage costume like in many other photos. This shows him in a more personal, natural style. A mountain of bison skulls. Scary, right? But why was it made? Let's find out. Bison were essential to life on the prairies. Weighing up to 600 kilograms, they are the largest land mammals in North America, and a keystone species. This means their role in the ecosystem was irreplaceable. When bison disappeared, the entire ecosystem was disrupted. Each skull in that pile represents more than a lost animal. Bison supported life by grazing, migrating, and wallowing. Their dung fed insects, which fed birds, turtles, and bats. When bison rolled in the dirt, they created wallows that became homes for frogs and tadpoles. Without bison, these habitats vanished. The buffalo is a symbol of self-sacrifice, giving everything until there's nothing left. Do you want to know what a typical frontier cowboy looked like? This cowboy looks like the one described in a Kansas newspaper from 1871. The description says he wore a flannel shirt with a handkerchief around his neck, butternut-colored pants, and long boots, with his pants tucked into the boots. He wore a large sombrero, a Mexican hat with a tall crown, and a very wide brim. This outfit was common for cowboys working on the frontier. Jesse James was the most famous member of the James Younger Gang. He was a notorious outlaw, and in 1882, he was killed. This photo, known as a cabinet card, was taken the same year he was murdered. The cabinet card was a popular type of photo at the time. Jesse James became famous for his crimes, but his life ended suddenly when he was shot, and this photo shows him just before that happened. In the Wild West, gambling wasn't just a game. It was a way of life, and even a respected profession. Skilled card players traveled from town to town, playing high-stakes games where fortunes could change in an instant. Cheating was common, and some gamblers would win big and disappear before getting caught. California became a hub for gambling in the 19th century, attracting players looking to strike it rich. For pioneers who faced risks daily, gambling fit their daring spirit and became a key part of life and culture in the frontier. Cowboys versus aliens. It sounds like a Hollywood movie, right? But some real stories and photos from Wild West history might make you think it actually happened. One of the strangest tales is the Aurora UFO incident of 1897. One morning in Aurora, Texas, townspeople saw a strange airship flying over the town. It crashed into a windmill on Judge Proctor's property, causing a huge explosion. Among the wreckage, they found the body of a pilot described as not of this world, along with strange papers covered in symbols. The townspeople gave the mysterious visitor a proper funeral in the Aurora Cemetery, even placing a marker at the grave. The story faded away for decades until the 1970s, when UFO enthusiasts tried to investigate, but locals opposed digging up the grave to let the being rest in peace. In 2018, the grave marker mysteriously disappeared, and a reward was offered for its return. Some skeptics believe the original story, written by S.E. Hayden, was just a publicity stunt to bring attention to Aurora. Even so, the Aurora UFO incident has become a fascinating piece of folklore, keeping people curious about the possibility of aliens visiting the Wild West. In 1861, a Pony Express rider carried mail across long distances. Riding fast on horseback, they delivered letters quickly, facing tough weather and dangers along the way. Trappers and hunters lived in Browns Basin, Arizona, near the Four Peaks. The Crabtree family, 2 boys, their father, and their hunting dogs and burros worked here. Their cabin was on Long Creek, at the entrance to a rugged area called Hell's Hip Pocket, located between Four Peaks and the Salt River. They lived off the land, hunting and exploring. This is probably the most famous photo of a former Indian captive. It was taken in 1856, after her ransom was paid. The photo shows Mormon Olive Oatman, who had been held captive by the Mojave tribe. Her captors gave her a tattoo of blue cactus ink on her chin, which they believed would ensure she had a good afterlife. The tattoo became a symbol of her time with the Mojave and is an important part of her story. The photo is one of the most well-known images from the Old West. The Texas Rangers were unofficially formed by Stephen Austin in 1823 and officially organized in 1835. They have a long history of chasing fugitives and protecting the Texas border. This photo, taken around 1885 to 1888, shows Company F of the Frontier Battalion. The Rangers were known for their bravery and skill in law enforcement. This cabinet card is a great image of them during their time on the frontier, capturing the spirit of these legendary lawmen who played a key role in the history of Texas. This 1880s photo is titled "The Genuine Cowboy Captured Alive." It shows Cottonwood Charlie Nebo, far left, a proud owner of a horse ranch. He is wearing a bib front shirt, shotgun chaps, a bandana, a wide-brimmed hat, and a fringed holster. His partner Nick is wearing a vest that was common among frontier cowboys. He has left off the chaps and boots. This photo gives a glimpse into the clothing and style of real cowboys during the Old West, showing their practical outfits for ranch life. In his book, A Cowboy Detective, Charles Siringo shared stories about his adventures with W.O. Sales. However, Robert G. McCubbin, who owns a photo of the two Pinkerton detectives taken while they were hunting the Wild Bunch in 1899 to 1900, noticed something unusual. In the book, Siringo, on the right, identified his partner, far right, as W.B. Sayers instead of W.O. Sales. Siringo often changed names in his 1912 book to protect people's identities. The book tells exciting tales of their detective work, and the photo adds a real glimpse of these events. Siringo's storytelling and clever name changes helped keep the stories thrilling while respecting the privacy of those involved. Cowboys wore different types of chaps like shotgun, Texas wing, and batwing, depending on where they worked. Most chaps were made from cowhide, but in colder places like the North, cowboys often wore chaps made from sheepskin or goat hide, with the fur still on. This cowboy from Caldwell, Kansas, probably wore chaps similar to those made from woolly sheepskin. The chaps helped protect the cowboys' legs while working with cattle, and the fur kept them warm in cold weather. George Armstrong Custer was a man who liked to look good in pictures. He posed for over 150 photographs during his life. This photo was taken just 2 months before the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876, where he would die. Custer was known for his strong personality and love of being in the spotlight. Sadly, the battle would be the end of his life, but many of his photos remain, showing his pride and confidence before that fateful day. In 1893, U.S. deputy marshals posed for a photo with their clerical staff in Perry, Oklahoma. The marshals were responsible for keeping law and order in the area during a time when towns were growing quickly. Their work was tough, as they dealt with outlaws and maintained peace. The clerks supported them by handling records and paperwork. This photo shows the teamwork between law enforcement and office workers who played an important role in managing the challenges of life on the frontier during this period of expansion. Firearms editor Phil Spangenberger discovered this old photo in an antique shop in Randsburg, California, near the Sierra Nevada mountains. The photo was likely taken around 1900. It shows passengers in a wagon being escorted by 2 armed guards on horseback through a mountain pass. The guards suggest the passengers were important or carrying something valuable, as such protection was not common unless needed. This scene captures life in the mountains at that time, where travel could be dangerous, and security was sometimes necessary for safety and protection.